Everyone. My name is John Criswell. I'm the 2021 Secretary for the Riverwood Farms Homeowners Association, and I want to welcome you to the 2021 Riverwood Annual Meeting. The agenda for tonight's meeting is a State of the Community video from Paul Westfall, our president. We'll have comments from Right Management, our new management company. Brandon McNary from DRM Attorney's Office will address the quorum and election results. We'll have compliance and financials covered by Keith Yarmowich, our secretary, our treasurer. And then a question and answer session will be led by Paul Westfall. Next, we'll have a video on common space design and improvement plan from Dr. Janice Tankson, our community day director. And last on the agenda will be some closing remarks and adjournment from Paul. Before we get into the meat of the meeting, I'd like to introduce to you the 2021 Board of Directors for Riverwood Farms. It's been a great pleasure to serve with these folks for the last couple of years. Here we have Paul Westfall, our president, Keith Yarmowich, our treasurer, Tom Conley. We have Dr. Janice Tankson, our community day director, and we have Michael Foster, our food truck director. And also very popular is Teresa Walls. She's our security liaison with Ambassador Service. Next, we'd like to play a short video for you on the state of Riverwood featuring our president, Paul Westfall.
Paul Westfall. Dear neighbors, the continuing pandemic caused many families to suffer, and all of us suffer with you. It has also brought us closer together. Neighbors get to know each other, and you welcome newcomers. And by being neighborly, you made the community stronger. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to report the state of Riverwood is strong. We accomplished most initiatives outlined as objectives in our strategic plan. The 2021 Board of Directors is the best group of professional executives we've ever had, and they embraced all strategic initiatives with eloquent resolve and creativity. The work involved a closer look to examine the needs of our size HOA in keeping with the strategic plan and examine capabilities and competencies of available management companies. The board decided on Right Management, largely due to their customer service mantra. Communication was high on our list, and with our partner Wayfind Marketing, a high-quality website was created with broader capabilities and ease of navigation. The usage has gone up ever since, as well as the Facebook page usage, now called Meta. Year-end surveys have revealed improvements, and our homeowners are pleased with the direction of the community. Our identity has become stronger, and frequent newsletters reinforce that. Common area signage are addressed with the multi-year Green Space Master Plan. CCR Compliance is a work in progress. The collection process has become more positive due to a strengthened policy instituted in 2019. Maintenance compliance is now being tracked in a matrix scorecard fashion to more easily observe the trend line, and the switch to Right Management is aiding this area. The CCR rewriting of the language as it pertains to rental homes will be addressed in a separate ballot campaign after the annual meeting. Leadership development has taken place with clear sets of qualifications and expectations with anyone interested in serving on the board. It has strengthened the makeup of the board in the last 2 years, which was further aided by the annual board member orientation and training retreat. We look forward to more community meetings in the coming year to vote on language changes of our CCR and also to recruit more volunteers to open committee positions. Management company roles and responsibilities have produced improved budget and financial reporting by allocating sufficient capital to reserves for operating budgets, as well as reserve study accounts for replacement of assets. The strengthened collection policy showed positive results in paring down long-term debt of association dues. With the selection of right management support functions, improvements will enable the board with fiduciary responsibilities. Amenity common areas have seen a lot of work in the last 3 years with mitigation processes of lake embankment erosion issues, repaving of all walkways, new split rail fencing, and a host of bridge repair and landscaping projects. Standards for major asset replacement have been expressed in the reserve capital study. Branding initiatives will include future committees to develop partnerships to enhance family and individual opportunities. Our treasurer, Keith Almovich, managed the RFP process for the selection of our new management company perfectly. He transformed the framework of board meeting agenda taken over from Greg Ballou, who earlier in the year moved to Atoka. Keith ensures we are on target with our capital reserve study appropriations and manages our vendor contracts with detail to advance our strategic objectives. He also has oversight of the Riverwood Farms beautiful committees. As we envisioned our management on a higher plane going forward, it was appropriate to reach out to a professional landscape architect. We engaged Reggie Smith and Associates and to guide us through a 5-year master plan of our green space and a total review of our signage package. You will see a video narrated by Dr. Janice Tankson later in the program. John Criswell, our communications chair, has performed an outstanding job to guide all communication initiatives with our chosen firm, Wayfind Marketing. The ongoing tracking of communication by our residents on our website and Facebook page show progressively increased usage and frequency. Please sign up on these communication vehicles if you have not done so yet. Dr. Janice Tankson, our resident parliamentary expert, is also chairing the Community Day. Due to continuing pandemic, it had to be canceled again in 2021, but we look forward to her leadership and intellect in 2022. Tom Conley is active on the Riverwood Farms Beautiful Committee overseeing hardscape matters such as bridges, walkways, and more, and he does it very, very well. Mike Foster presides over the food truck program, but again, due to the pandemic, it was canceled again until further notice. Deressa Walls is our liaison with Ambassador Courtesy Patrol and generally reports activities of note to the board in a very dedicated fashion. And our kudos go out to her to keep things generally quiet. We thank Jen Zenner and her volunteers for leading the Riverwood Beautiful Committee with emphasis on softscape and all the vegetation around the lake systems. We also send kudos to Joan Hendricks, who tirelessly looks for deserving residents to give out 6 quarterly beautification awards. Well done. All of these board members continue to have an enormous impact on the well-being of Riverwood, and we thank them and wish for their continued service in 2022. It has been my privilege and honor to serve you and this community for the last few years, and I offer my services for the coming year. Together, we strive to enhance the beauty of our abundant green spaces, support the safety of our residents, and create a distinct community which adds value to our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that message, Paul. Next on the agenda, I'd like to invite Bob Keiprel with our new management company, Right Property Management, and he would like to speak about their approach to HOA property management and their relationship with Riverwood Farm homeowners. Bob, would you come up, please?
Good evening. Again, my name is Bob Kreipel, and I'm president of Right Property Management, and I wanted to thank you for the opportunity of being here this evening. Right Property Management, for those that are not familiar with us, has been around since 2005. We manage over 81 associations throughout the greater Memphis and northern Mississippi area with over 6,500 doors. Again, much of our leadership team that you'll see and learn going forward has a lot of hospitality, hotel experience. Fourth, our goals of customer satisfaction or client satisfaction in this case being our first concern, along with a continuous property improvement plan that we are always working with our associations. We've enjoyed getting to know the current board through the selection process and are working closely in aligning your community goals with our team. We have found our approach grows both in pride and ownership in the community and provides stability and growth in property values. With me tonight is my wife and business partner, Lee Kreipel, and Katina Stewart, who is your property manager, who I'd like to bring forward now. Thank you very much.
Hello, thank you. My name's Lee Kreipel, and I'm co-owner of Right Property Management. We are honored to serve you as your community management company by supporting the board of directors in all facets of community management and playing an active role in implementing the strategic plan for the future of the neighborhood. As your management team, some of our services include CCR Compliance Management, facilitating the architectural review change request process, financial reporting, as well as assistance with budgeting and capital planning for your reserves. We will also work closely with your legal partners in managing delinquencies and your upcoming CCR amendments. In the upcoming year, we'll be adding upgrades to our portal interface by adding new features to include a mobile app that will make it easier for you to pay your association dues, view your account, view association documents, and receive updates. We are committing to making community management a more positive and convenient experience for all Riverwood residents. Thank you very much. Katina.
Hello, I'm Katina Stewart, and I am excited to serve as your property manager. In 2 short months, I've had the opportunity to learn your environment and your community and meet several of you. I would really like to say thank you so much for the warm welcome. Everyone has been so encouraging. Part of my responsibility is covenant compliance, and I believe in making that a positive experience as possible. So I hope you guys find helpful the preemptive emails letting you know the areas of focus for the month. We also find it's helpful to offer convenient solutions like our recent mailbox refresh project. We were thrilled with the participation of the homeowners, and we want to offer similar projects like this in the future. I'm interested in your feedback and welcome any suggestions as we continue to keep Riverwood beautiful. Thank you.
Next, we have Brandon McNary from the DRM, the attorney's office that represents Riverwood. Brandon will speak to the quorum rules and the 2022 Board of Director election. Brandon?
Good evening, and thank you all for having me. I'd like to thank the 2021 board. It's been a pleasure working with you all over the past year as you've navigated the ongoing COVID-19 issues and continuing to make Riverwood Farms a great place to live. So it's been a pleasure working with all of you. They've done a great job. I look forward to working with the 2022 Board of Directors. You all needed 114 ballots to be submitted to establish a quorum, and you exceeded that number. You had 165 ballots submitted, and your 2022 Board of Directors, in no particular order, are as follows: Angela Bailey Mitchell, Tom Conley, Michael Foster, Janice Tankson, Darissa Walls, Paul Westfall, and Keith Yarmowich. So that will be your 2022 Board of Directors. I look forward to working with all of them and wish you all the best of luck and hope you all have a happy upcoming holiday season.
Thank you, Brandon. We had Brandon over here on the end since trying to keep his legal fees down to a minimum, so he's going to sneak out of here now. But sorry about that. I didn't introduce myself. My name's Keith Yarmwich. I'm the 2021 treasurer, following up Greg Ballou's role as treasurer in 2020 and previously. Actually had it a little bit through 21 until he moved on. Let's go ahead and look at the first slide. As we developed the financial plan for 21 with Greg, and that transitioned over to me, there were several key items that we wanted to follow through. And a lot of these were basically things that we had done, started in 2020 and wanted to continue. The first bullet you can see is continued pursuit of the annual dues delinquency. You know, that's the collection of the annual dues and other HOA receivables. That's all monies owed to the HOA. So we want to make sure anything that is owed to us, we're collecting. Then, of course, managing expenses to plan. That's always important. We always follow through on that, or want to make sure we're following through on that. Maintaining the reserves and strong balance sheet that was established in 2020. You heard Lee speak about that a little bit, the importance of that. Also, you heard Lee comment, we want to get that started ASAP to get a professional reserve study done. That'll look at all of our assets and make sure that we have a good plan that as assets come up for renewal or rehab, that we've got the proper funds in place and we're not having to do special assessments. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move through. Excuse me. And then lastly, you have on here the transition to right property management. And of course, everything associated with property management is important, but in particular, the financial aspect of that was my responsibility or part of the treasurer's responsibility to make sure all of that transitioned over well. And I'm pleased to announce that that is the case. If we look at the next slide, excuse me, I talked about annual dues collection and delinquencies. And so annual dues, we have 1,134 properties within the neighborhood. If everybody pays their 525 annual dues, we have about 600,000 collected, less the delinquencies. So if we take a look at delinquencies in 21, we had approximately 72 homes, or about 6.5% of the total that did not pay on time, which was at that end of April, 1st of May time period, and had to go into collections. Now that's a little bit ahead of where we were in 2020, just slightly, but still much better than where we were in the past few years. So we want to continue to keep a really tight watch on that. Excuse me. The next part on here, just talking about general accounts receivables. For 21, that went up just a little bit from 108,000 to 112,000. And that includes all of those delinquent accounts that are in collections that might be current accounts from 21, old accounts that we're still trying to collect in 20 and previously, also legal fees, liens, fines, other things of that nature. Again, if those monies are owed to the HOA, we want to try to make sure that we can get those collected. Let's take a look at the next slide. And we're talking about the 21 budget. 21 budget is very similar to where we were in 20, and will probably be similar to what we carry over into 22. So we have approximately $590,000 to spend each year, and that includes the collections, less the delinquencies, plus additional accounts receivables brought in-house. So let's look at that from starting over in the top left-hand corner, excuse me, and see where the money goes. So capital asset, the annual reserve fund funding. Now what that is, we got about 15% of our money going to that. What that is the every year we have to look at how much we need to put in the reserve fund. And so every year we're adding something into the reserve fund, building that up, of course, having some expenses each year, and making sure that we're building that up so when we hit these really high expense items such as redoing the lake or the pass around the lake, some of the major erosion control projects, fence repairs or major fence repairs, things of that nature. We have enough money in that reserve so that we're not having to do any kind of special assessments or significant increases. Coming over to the right side, we have about 32% going to what we call administrative fees. That includes the money that we pay to Right Management for their activities, their associated administrative costs with that, legal fees, collection fees, our website communication fees, insurances. You can also see homeowner activities, so things like the community day that Janice puts on, things of that nature, decorations, all go into administrative. Excuse me. Down to the bottom right, we've got our safety courtesy patrol through Ambassador. That's about 25% of the budget. They do an excellent job for us. We'll talk a little bit more about that as Paul gets into some of the Q&A, but that's been effective. We also want to leverage that patrol to help with CCR and ARC type issues, since they're out there in the neighborhood all the time, their eyes and ears of everything that's going on. They can help us in that respect. Common space maintenance, that is about 28% of the total funds or expense funds. And you can see various items that go into that, maintaining the common space, the beautiful and broad common space that we have. That's everything from mowing, chemicals on the lawns, the major, or not the major, but the minor erosion control, minor fence repairs, things of that nature. Lots of things going into that. And I think we do a pretty good job keeping that all maintained. So if we look at the next slide. So this is the cash flow analysis. So we talked about making sure that we're addressing the reserve funds and the balance sheet, keeping a very strong balance sheet. So if you look at 2021, as of the end of September, we had $725,000 cash on hand. Now, out of that, the first line you see we have to allocate, that's $250,000. That's for ongoing expenses through the rest of this year into when we start collecting dues again at the end of April, May. So we have to make sure we have funds available for all of those expenses. Also, we've got the capital reserves. Again, I talked about that. You know, that's a balance that we have to keep reserved. Each year we add a little bit to it. Each year we spend against it. And then make sure that we're building that up appropriately for when we hit those really major expenses. The next item is the required operating reserves that was established last year, and we continue with that. And then the item about capital improvements, if you've noticed, you'll actually see that we went from cash on hand, we're up about 100,000 from last year. This is the category we're at, and actually all of the, or most of these items, these major improvements that are going on, and you'll start seeing those over the winter into the spring. Those are already started and approved. We just haven't had to pay the bills on those yet. So as we pay those, that the cash balance will come down as well. Okay, next slide, please. The next, I wanted to talk just a little bit about CCR compliance. I know Katina and Lee both spoke to that, and that's a very important topic for the community and for the board. Some of the things that, and Katina spoke to this, that we were really impressed with as we moved over to Right, is their focus on proactive notification and making sure that we as homeowners are aware of what the expectations are around the CCRs, that proactive notification and awareness. I know Katina had something out about the mailboxes. She talked about the mailboxes. I think recently she sent something out about fences. So, you know, those are just some examples of where we see Right doing a proactive communication of what's going on with CCRs. Now, just as important with that is when we do have issues, that we have the follow-up to make sure that where we have any, you know, violations that need to be remedied, that we do follow up on those. And then unfortunately, we do have some situations where those actually have to accelerate or escalate into legal action. So again, we look to Wright to really drive all of that and try to keep that clean for the community. Now, the next slide I have here is really just kind of a eye chart. If you look over to the far right, you see a lot of notifications and violation notifications that have come out. We almost hate to use the word violations because that seems a little harsh, but just issues that are associated with the CCRs. So we're starting to see a lot more activity there. That's something that as we made the transition to Wright, we asked them to be very diligent about that, just so we're finding those issues and addressing them quickly. You can see the follow-up is a lot higher than it was earlier in the year, and we expect to see that trend to continue. So there's a lot of things going on in that space. And then the last slide I wanted to speak to, excuse me, is so this also has to do with CCR, the ARC, and the notification progression process. So from time to time, we get comments to the management company and to the board that talks about, hey, there's these, violations, CCR violations that are going on out there. Some are minor, some are pretty major. Nobody seems to be doing anything about it. Does anybody care? Is there any follow-up to it? And the point of this slide is just to show you that, our first message is, yes, we do care. And yes, we are following up on that. But unfortunately, a lot of those to get remedied when there's some issues and differences of opinion of what needs to be done can take some time to get rectified. So if you look at this, you can see where there's a couple of two notifications that come out from Wright. If that can't get resolution or remediation on the issue, then the attorney's office gets involved and sends out a notice to say, hey, we're serious about this. That can then continue into a suit and go into court, and eventually could be a judgment against the homeowner. Just the point of all of this is some of these major issues can take anywhere from a month all the way up to 6 months before we can get remediation. And so, yes, we do care about those items and are trying to follow through on those for you. Okay. Excuse me, that's all I have. Next, we're going to bring up Paul for a Q&A session, some of the items that were sent in previously to the website.
Good evening again. I wanted to address some of the questions that some of you had communicated. The first is, what is the latest on de-annexation from the city in Riverwood? I need to take you back about 3-4 years when I conducted a de-annexation survey, and I had about 300 responses where 99% had indicated they were in favor of de-annexation. At the time, a law in the House and Senate in Tennessee, in Nashville, Tennessee, was being put forth, and unfortunately it never became law, where areas that had previously egregiously been annexed, and that was the case with Riverwood when only one reading took place in City Council instead of 3, and some other items as well, but the de-annexation discussion became a moot point, and it is today. Next question was, what can be done about speeding throughout the neighborhood? Speeding has always been a concern for all of us, especially since families with children live in lots of the streets, and so a 30-mile speed limit is sometimes not being observed, and we have reminded you with several notices on our website where the HOA recommends cooperation and to observe the speed limits. We have also engaged with our friends at MPD and the Sheriff's Office to asked them to have more frequent paroles of their squad cars to motivate people to keep the speed down. And so there's another aspect to deal with speed, and that is speed bumps. The homeowners on any given street can elect to have such a instrument installed on their street, provided that 75% of people on that street agree, and then they can appeal to the city to have speed bumps installed. We do ask all homeowners to be considerate and abide to speed limits in the neighborhood and be careful at all times. Next question was, the CCRs for the HOA are over 30 plus years old. Is there any thought to update them? Yes, there is, of course. We have spoken to our attorneys for the last number of years as to how we might want to change the language in our CCR, since they are 35 and 36 years old. In some areas, they're a little younger, depending on the phases of the buildup of the neighborhood. But you may also recall that in your package that was given to you by your realtor when you bought the property, that included the CCRs, and it states in order to change any bit of that language, it takes a quorum of 75% of all homeowners. And so we have addressed this issue and intend to have a separate ballot campaign after this annual meeting to lower that quorum number, and then consider different changes that may need to be done. Next question was, seems like there are more and more rental homes in the HOA. Any thoughts to control the growth of this? The financial disaster in 2007 and 2008 produced probably the most of those rental homes, since homeowners were, so to speak, underwater with their mortgages, had to look for work elsewhere, and decided that their home would become a rental property. And we want to address that, as I mentioned earlier, when we are able to rewrite the CCRs and curtail that activity. With the ongoing concern about security across Shelby County and the neighborhood, does the HOA have any thoughts on how to maintain a safe environment in Riverwood, such as enhanced courtesy patrols, cameras at the entrances, exits, bidding out patrol services, and other? First, I want to mention that we are a safe island in a surrounding mayhem. As you may have seen on your computer, when you can access, where you can access the crime stats of the surrounding communities of Riverwood, you find that we live indeed in a very safe place. And it is due to you practicing safety. It is also due to the fact that we have a courtesy patrol ambassador that tries to point out safety issues at certain homes and patrol the areas to give us an added form of security. We have looked at some of the suggestions from time to time. There are discussions with Ambassador on these topics. Some ideas have been on the table, are more use of cameras at the entrances and leveraging other technology. So far, in general, safety and security have been effective for the most part, and we want to keep it that way. Thank you. So now I want to ask you to look at the video narrated by Dr. Janice Tankson that shows some of the ideas for our green space master plan that we have engaged Richie Smith and Associates to help us guide through that in the next few years.
Hi, neighbors. My name is Janice Tankson, and I bring you greetings from the Riverwood HOA Board. While we are still in the pandemic era, we as board members are working very hard and hard for the success and beauty of the Riverwood Farms community, the place where we call our home. In the last few years, we have seen many changes in our community, and the big change, the really big, great change that we have seen is the dramatic improvements in our property values. I'm elated myself because of that. And the board decided that this would be the perfect time to enhance our amenities and common space. We are engaging in a professional landscaping architect to help us. Some of the areas we would love to enhance are some of the following. The main entrance off Dexter Lane and River Pine would have dramatic and noticeable transformations. New covenant signage will be installed at all the lake entrances and other access to our community, such as Mill Farm, Autumndale, and Elderberry. Raising the canopies of trees over the lower lakes. And in selected areas, we will thin out the shrubbery to allow the magnificent view of the lake from the street. These are just a few ideals from the first installment, and more is yet to come in the coming years. Please know that your board is working hard for you and heart for you. And we are in this together because we are Riverwood strong.
Thank you, Dr. Tankson. And thank you, Steve Phibbs and your team at Wayfind Marketing for guiding us through this great meeting. We enjoyed all of the presentations, and I want to thank all the homeowners at Riverwood for continuing to do their best to make Riverwood a great community and improve on what we already have. I want to thank the rest of the board, congratulate them, and we thank you for this evening. Good evening. Tonight's meeting and presentations will continue to be available on the website. And if you have any additional questions, you can record them there as well. Thank you very much.